I've been a big Kindle lover over the past couple years. I've tried the Kindle Paperwhite, the Oasis, and now the Kindle Colorsoft. So I feel pretty familiar with this whole world. But I finally got a chance to try out the Kobo Libra color, and I immediately started noticing some differences, things that I liked better about the Kobo, things that I missed about my Kindle. So in today's video, we're going to be breaking it down, everything you need to know about the Kindle versus the Kobo from a reader's perspective, not a tech reviewer's perspective. And what I mean by that is you may not get every single spec, but we're really going to be diving into some of the feature comparisons and what the actual experience is reading on these devices from day to day. And if you're new here, hi, my name's Lottie and I make bookish videos here on YouTube, everything from reading vlogs to Kindle tips. Definitely click subscribe down below if you're a book lover like me. And as we get started with today's video, I want to acknowledge that specifically I'm going to be referencing these two models when talking about comparisons. So we've got the Kindle Colorsoft Signature Edition as well as the Kobo Libra Color. These are kind of the two hot models right now that everyone is looking at and talking about. So we're going to be comparing these, but as I go through some of the different pointers, I'm going to be referencing capabilities of other models and also, of course, just the Kindle versus Kobo ecosystem at large beyond just the devices. Also, I've broken up my notes and thoughts for this video into a couple different sections, so I'm going to timestamp that out down below. If there are specific things that you're interested in, feel free to scrub through those and find what you're looking for. This is the comparison video that I wish I had when I was trying to figure out which e-reader was right for me, so let's just jump into it. First up, we're going to talk about the physical differences and the everyday feel, kind of the first thing you notice when just holding the two devices. So considering the size and how both of the devices feel while you're holding them, they are very similar, but they have some key differences. The main design difference here is that with the Kobo Libra Color, you do have page turn buttons on the side. You can hold it on either side and use the buttons to turn the pages. In terms of weight, I'm not sure technically which one weighs more. In my hand, without a case on either, they feel practically the same. The Kobo Libra Color does come in white and in black, whereas the Colorsoft only comes in black. And with the Colorsoft, you don't have those page turn buttons, so you just swipe on the page to turn the page. With the Kobo, you can use the page turn buttons, but you also can swipe just like the Kindle. To power the Kobo on, there is a circular button on the back of the Kobo, so you can push that to wake up the device. You also can turn on a setting that allows you to wake up the device by pressing one of the page turn buttons. I like having that on, but some people don't, because if you throw it in your bag and it gets bumped around, it easily can wake up, but you can disable that. On the other hand, with the Kindle Colorsoft, the on button is on the bottom of the device, so you just push that to wake it up, and then you can start reading. To be honest, it took me some time to get used to the power button being on the back of the Kobo, which is why I like just using the page turn buttons to wake up the device. I do kind of prefer the on-off button being on the bottom of the device with the Kindles. And the last thing I wanted to mention with the everyday feel of the device is the lock screen. Both of these devices do use color e-ink, so you can see your book covers in color on the lock screen. To be honest, they look really similar to me, but one thing I do like about the Kobo lock screen is you do get this little like reading dashboard along with your book cover. So on mine right now it says sleeping, 1% of the book read, 6 hours to go. So you get a little reminder on where you are in the book, which is really cool. You can turn that off though if you just want to see the cover. So when it comes down to it, I'd say for everyday feel, I slightly prefer the Kobo. I really love the page turn buttons. I find the ergonomic design of the Kobo just a little bit easier to hold. I find usually with a Kindle like this, I want some kind of like pop socket or hand strap or loop, something to kind of anchor my hand in the back, but you really don't need that with the way this Kobo is designed. And I like this kind of like reading dashboard on the lock screen. I think it's a really cool customizable feature, but I will say I do prefer the on-off button being on the bottom of the Kindle, so that's a win for Kindle. I will say the build quality of the Kobo feels a little bit cheaper. The Kobo feels like a little more plasticky. To be fair though, the Kobo is made from recycled ocean-bound plastic, so I don't mind the difference in build quality at all, because I know that the reason this one feels a little bit different is because they were using ocean-bound plastic. So another thing to consider though with the everyday look and feel of both devices is that there are so many more Kindle cases on the market. So if you really want a cute case that you can use every day, there are tons more options for the Kindle. We'll dive a little bit more into cases and accessories towards the end. Next up, we're going to dive more into the actual screen and the reading experience. Both of these devices have 7-inch colored e-ink screens, but they're not identical. I'm pretty sure both devices use pretty much the same technology to bring the screen to life. The screen, of course, has a matte finish, and it's definitely more of a muted color. I honestly don't notice a huge difference between each screen. I think the color capability on both devices is great, and of course, it's just fun to have the colored book cover, but when it comes to just reading text, you definitely don't need it. The Kindle Colorsoft has a completely flush screen. The front is completely smooth, kind of like an iPad, whereas the Kobo has an indented screen with this kind of lip around the frame. I'd say if I had to choose, the colors on the Kindle maybe pop just slightly more. I feel like things are just a hair sharper on here, but honestly, I think that's only if you're really looking at it and comparing the two. But I do not think it's a significant difference at all. Both the Kindle Colorsoft Signature Edition and the Kobo Libra Color let you adjust your brightness and your warmth on the screen. The Kindle has an auto brightness feature, so it has a sensor that allows it to adapt to its surroundings so that but hopefully you don't even really have to adjust the brightness. And then with the warmth, it has a schedule, so you can schedule it to get warmer at your bedtime, and then you can turn the warmth back down in the morning. With the Kobo, you also can control the brightness and the warmth, although it doesn't have an auto brightness feature. I don't think it has that same sensor. I find I don't miss this feature too much. The Kobo has its own capability where you can quickly adjust the brightness on your own by swiping up and down on the left side of the device. This is a capability that the Kindle doesn't have, so I find I don't miss it too much because I'm able to just quickly adjust it how I want it when I start reading. The Kobo also allows you to control your warmth, and you can put this on a schedule too. I will say swapping into dark mode is a little bit easier and quicker on the Kindle, but you can swap into dark mode on both devices. It just takes a couple more clicks to get to it when you use the Kobo. With both devices, you can switch between reading in portrait mode and landscape mode, but I think this is better on the Kobo. You can actually enable auto rotate on your Kobo so that you can always be switching around which way you want to read, which is really cool. I don't use this feature too much, but it's cool that the Kobo has it. Another thing I like a little bit more about the reading experience with the Kobo is that you have a lot more control and customization options. You have really refined controls of the margins, the line spacing, the fonts, the font sizes, everything like that. And you also can reassign the page turn buttons to be reverse if you have a different preference than what the default is. I'd say the navigation on the Kindle still feels a little bit more familiar to me, but I also think that's because I've been a Kindle user for years now, and I'm still learning more about the Kobo every day. I have both of my screens configured with about the same settings right now, a similar font, a similar weight, similar brightness, and I'd say the Kobo feels like it's a bit brighter with a bit more contrast, and it also has a little bit more of like a grainy look in the background. I wouldn't say that the words look grainy, the words look very sharp, but the white page in the background looks a little bit more like paper in the fact that it's like a little bit grainy, whereas the paper in the background on the Kindle looks a lot more smooth. In terms of speed and response time, I also find they're very comparable when you tap on the screen to turn the page. It might be a millisecond difference, but nothing that I ever notice when switching back and forth between the two devices. So who wins out when it comes to the screen and the reading experience? I'd say for the screen, probably the Kindle, but for the reading experience, probably the Kobo. So again, just kind of depends on your preferences. Let's talk more about how you can download content onto each device. First up, when considering library access, Kobo to me is the clear winner. The Kobo Libra Color has Overdrive built in, which is the parent company to Libby. So if you log into your Overdrive account or your Libby account on your Kobo, it automatically syncs all of your library holds. You don't have to do anything to send your Libby ebooks to your e-reader. They just automatically show up. You also can browse currently available ebooks through your library on your Kobo. You can browse, borrow, read, and return all on one device. If you want to read library ebooks on your Amazon Kindle, you have to use this app called Libby, which I have a whole video on how to use Libby, so I'll link that down below. So you can definitely still get library ebooks onto your Kindle. You just have to go through the Libby app on your phone, and I'm pretty sure that's true for all Kindle devices as well. So I'd say if you use your library a lot, Kobo makes it way easier. Okay, now let's talk about buying books on the Kindle versus the Kobo. The Kindle does have enabled one-tap buying on the Kindle itself, so you can browse books from Amazon on your Kindle, purchase them through the device, and start reading. Honestly, I usually don't do this when reading on my Kindle Colorsoft because for a while back in the day with my Kindle Paperwhite, you had to go to Amazon.com to purchase your books and then send them to your Kindle. And I just got in the habit of doing that, but I still haven't really gotten in the habit of just browsing for books on my Kindle itself. In terms of purchasing books on your Kobo, you can browse through tons of different titles on the Kobo itself, but in order to actually check out and purchase a book, you've got to scan a QR code and you can finish checking out on your phone. But they do support Apple Pay, which makes it really easy because I almost always have my phone with me, so I just scan it, do a quick Apple Pay, and then you're good to go. So when it comes to actually buying ebooks, the experience on the Kindle is a little bit more seamless and integrated. Okay, let's talk about subscription services. So there is Kindle Unlimited and Kobo Plus. In case you missed it, I have a whole video on what is Kindle Unlimited. So if you want to learn more about KU, definitely check out that video. It goes way more in depth. Kindle Unlimited is currently $12 US per month, and they have a huge catalog. They do have a lot of popular titles on there, but oftentimes new release titles won't be included because the authors want to sell those, but then maybe after a year or two, they might come to Kindle Unlimited. Think of it kind of like Netflix, but for books. There are some new books on there, like there are some new movies on Netflix, but not every new movie. You know what I mean? Kobo does offer a competing subscription service called Kobo Plus, which is about $8 a month, or you can pay $10 a month for ebooks and audiobooks. So it is more affordable, but I will say their catalog is quite a bit smaller, but I know they are making an effort to grow it. So both have good options. Kindle has a bigger catalog, but Kobo is more affordable, at least right now. One last major thing that I think we should definitely acknowledge is that Kindle devices automatically sync with Goodreads. Because Amazon owns Kindle and Amazon and Goodreads, it all syncs together. If you start reading a book on your Kindle, it will automatically mark it as currently reading on your Goodreads, and it is really nice to have that integration. Kobo, of course, doesn't have that because this is not an Amazon device. So if that matters to you, then Kindle is the way to go. For me personally, I have it turned off on on my Kindle anyways. I don't really like the syncing. I like to do it all myself. Because I use both devices, or I may be listening to an audiobook or reading a physical book, I like to just do it all manually because I don't want to accidentally forget something and get out of the habit of using it for only one device. You know what I mean? I don't know. Plus, sometimes I'll open a book on my Kindle and read a chapter to see if I'm interested in it, and I don't want it to like go ahead and mark it on my Goodreads because I don't know if I'm going to actually start that book yet. So for me, it doesn't really matter. I have it turned off, but if it's something that you enjoy, definitely something to consider. Okay, next up, I wanted to do a little bit of a capabilities comparison between some of my favorite features on both the devices. This is essentially going to be kind of a rapid fire section, so you can kind of see how the features stack up as a reader. All right, first up, let's talk about a couple Kindle features that you might miss if you use the Kobo. The Kindle allows you to display the clock while you're reading, so you can see the time as you read. I love this feature on my Kindle. It's one of my favorites. And Kobo doesn't currently have any feature like that integrated into their system. I know you can like jailbreak your Kobo or add some kind of widget or something. I haven't gone to those lengths, but I definitely do miss this feature more than I expected to. Next up is the X-ray feature on Kindle. If you're familiar, you can highlight a common name or place on your Kindle and it'll kind of pull up references to that throughout the book. This is such an amazing feature, but I will say it doesn't work if you're reading a library book. So if you often read library books, you're not really missing anything. This is another feature that is only on the Kindle. The Kobo does offer something kind of similar though. You can highlight a word and then search it within the book. So it'll show you other times where that word may have popped up. So if that's a place or a name, you can find that. It just isn't quite as robust and built out as that X-ray feature, but it is comparable and I'm pretty sure it works on library books. Overall, I do really love the X-ray feature. I think it's incredible, especially if you read a lot of fantasy books with a lot of places or names in them. Personally, I like fantasy books, but it's not my main genre. So I find usually that the search this book feature on the Kobo is good enough for me. The next thing I love on the Kindle is the ability to quickly toggle over into dark mode. You can just swipe down from the top and tap to switch it into night mode. You can still do this with the Kobo. It just takes a couple more clicks, and honestly, it is kind of annoying sometimes because I have to tap quite a few times to get into the settings to change this. It's not a big deal. You're not losing any functionality, but it is slightly inconvenient compared to the Kindle. Next up with the Kindle, you've got a couple things we already talked about. So the Goodreads integration and the sensor that allows the brightness to be on auto brightness. Those are two capabilities that you are going to miss out on with the Kobo. Another feature on the Kindle that I do love that's not available on the Kobo is the vocab builder. So when you highlight a word in a book, it kind of builds this whole vocab builder section in the back of your Kindle, and you can actually access flashcards as well to kind of like swipe through all of your vocab words. Kobo does allow you to create a system where you can kind of log all of your vocab words, but it doesn't let you do the flashcard feature. So if that's a feature that you really love, just know there aren't any flashcards integrated with the Kobo just yet. All right, now let's talk about some Kobo features that you don't get on the Kindle that I really love. First up, I think the way that you can sort and filter your library in the Kobo is better. I think that they've organized it better. You can sort it by books, author, series, and collections. So you can also create collections with certain books. You can do collections with Kindle and you can sort and filter. I just think that the way that they have it set up here is better, and I love being able to toggle over to this series tab too, where you can see all the series you're in the middle of. I think this is so cool. The next thing I mentioned before is that you can swipe on the left up and down to quickly control the brightness of your screen. I think that this is an amazing feature and I love using this on the Kobo. Something else really cool that you get on the Kobo that you don't get on the Kindle are reading stats for the current book that you're reading. So up at the top of the screen, you can see this chapter. It can tell you what % of the chapter you've read. It can tell you how far into the chapter you are, how many minutes you have left in the chapter, how many minutes the next chapter will take you to read, as well as how long all the chapters are throughout the whole book, and then how many hours you have left to go in the whole book. I know you get some of these stats on your Kindle, like, how many hours left in the entire book, but some of these smaller data points are really interesting to see too, and I really like that about the Kobo. You also can customize what you see at the top and the bottom of your page like you do with the Kindle. So at the bottom of the Kobo, I currently have mine where it just tells me what % of the book I am through. So right now it says 8% read, and you also have a progress bar on the bottom of the screen. So if you're halfway through the book, the progress bar will be halfway full. Mine's just a little bit since I'm only 8% into this book. And then at the top of mine right here, I currently have where it says chapter 7 at the top, and then I have it where it says 2 of 13. So that's how many Kobo pages this chapter is. So I'm on page 2 in this Kobo chapter, and there's 13 Kobo pages. But you can adjust this. When it comes to the header, you can choose between pages left in the chapter, % of the chapter read, and time remaining in the chapter. So sometimes I like to have time remaining in the chapter. It just depends on my mood. And then for the footer, you can change it to pages left in book, % of book read, or time remaining in book. So lots of options here, and I find I like the options more on the Kobo. Another Kobo feature you don't get with the Kindle is, of course, the page turn buttons. We used to have this with the Kindle Oasis, but that's now a discontinued device from Kindle. So they don't currently offer an e-reader with page turn buttons. And I just find it's much more comfortable to hold. Another amazing feature with the Kobo Libra Color is stylus annotation. The Kobo Libra Color supports a stylus. This is the Kobo stylus that you can purchase separately, and it has magnets in it that allow it to clip on to the side of the device. I wouldn't say it's very strong. This gets knocked off easily like in your bag or something, but it is nice that it goes on there. You also can put it over here, but you're not really supposed to. So I try to keep it over here because that's what you're supposed to do. But this connects and integrates with the Kobo, which is incredible, and it allows for handwritten annotations in color. None of the Kindle devices that are this size have any capabilities like that. There is the Kindle Scribe that you can purchase, but that's much more comparable to like an iPad than your typical e-reader. So I think that if you're someone who loves annotating your books, this is definitely a huge pro for the Kobo. There's also a notebook capability on the Kobo Libra Color, so you can use it to just jot notes down or, journal, things like that as well. You can't like import images though, like you could with like iPad journaling. It's very bare bones, but it is there if you want to use it. And then talking about a couple features that both devices share, they both have a dictionary and allow you to highlight words and see the definitions and also go back to the words that you've highlighted. They're both waterproof and they both have a similar amount of storage. So that's a rapid fire comparison of a bunch of the different capabilities and features. I feel like these are some of the most important things to consider when thinking about what you really care about with your reading experience, and those are some of the ones that stood out to me. Now let's talk a little bit about the battery on each device, as well as the speed and just the overall performance. When it comes to the battery, I don't notice a huge difference between the Kindle and the Kobo, but what I do notice is that both of these devices drain battery pretty quickly when compared to the Kindle Paperwhite. So if a long-lasting battery is more important to you than colored e-ink, I would say to go with either the Kindle Paperwhite or the Kobo Clara BW. That is the Paperwhite competitor from Kobo. I find that the charge lasts a lot longer on traditional e-ink screens, but once you bring color into the mix, they do die a lot faster. But the battery life is good on both of them. They both would last you at least like a weekend, I would say. But with my Kindle Paperwhite, I used to be able to go like months without charging that thing. I would say that if you're actively using the Kobo and the stylus and you're annotating while you're reading and highlighting up a storm, the Kobo does die a little bit faster than the Kindle Colorsoft just because it has more of that functionality, so it's using more power and it's dying faster. For me, I'd say I usually need to charge my Kobo every 3 to 7 days, whereas I probably charge my Kindle every 7 to 10 days. It just depends on how much I've been writing in my Kobo and using that annotation capability. I'd say if you're just reading on the Kobo without using the stylus, the battery is pretty similar to the Kindle. For charging, both of these devices use USB-C ports, which for me, I really love because that's the same as my iPhone, my iPad, my headphones. It's great. But one thing with the Kindle is that you actually can do wireless charging as well. And there's a few different like wireless charging stands that you can get, which is a pretty cool feature. Generally speaking though, I don't think the battery difference here should really make or break your decision. But I do think you should consider whether color is worth the battery dying faster, because that for me has definitely been my experience. When it comes to speed and overall performance, I find they're very comparable. I know a lot of people had issues with the Colorsoft when it first launched last year in terms of like the yellowish tint on the bottom. I haven't experienced anything like that. For me, this device has felt very similar to my Paperwhite Signature Edition, just with color. Kobo may be a little bit faster than the Kindle in terms of response time, but it kind of just depends on what you're doing and how much is loaded onto each device. I feel like it's not 100% fair to compare because I do think I have a little bit more loaded onto my Kindle from like Kindle Unlimited and stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about the price of both of these devices. The Kindle Colorsoft retails for $280 US, but it is often on sale on Kindle, even when it's not Prime Day, for about $250. The Kobo Libra Color, on the other hand, retails for about $230 US with about a $70 stylus if you want to get that. So for both the e-reader and the stylus, that's going to be about $300. These are the two kind of premium devices from both Kobo and Kindle. They do have more basic models if you're looking for something a little bit more affordable, especially if color isn't important to you. You can definitely save money by getting a model with traditional black and white e-ink. I personally think it's hard to say which one's the better buy because they are kind of similar in price range. Though the base Kobo is more affordable than the Kindle Colorsoft, I do think a lot of the value of the Kobo is unlocked when you get that matching stylus. If you're able to catch the Kindle Colorsoft on sale at $250 versus the Kobo with the stylus at $300, you're looking at about a $50 price difference. But it also may be the case that you don't care about a stylus and the Kindle isn't on sale, in which case the Kobo would be $70 cheaper than the Kindle. You may also factor in the cost of Kindle Unlimited or Kobo Plus if you want to do that. It's just really hard for me to say, what the better buy is because it is all about your priorities and the current market. I just want to give you all the information you need so you can make the right decision for you. You also may want to consider the price of a case. So let's talk a little bit more about accessories. I have a whole video talking about tons of my Kindle essentials. In case you missed that, I'll link it down below. But when it comes to accessories for the Kindle, there's a couple things you could consider. The main accessory I think everyone will want for their Kindle is a Kindle case. case. And there are a lot more options for great Kindle cases out there at more affordable price points. I got this clear rubber Kindle case on Amazon probably for $10, and you can find ones that fit the Kindle really well and that are really affordable and hold up from places like Amazon. So this is what this clear case looks like. And then I also added a pop socket onto here. You also may decide you want a Kindle case more like this that opens up like a book. I call this more of a folio style case, but you can put your Kindle in here like this as well. There's tons of different options like this out there. A lot of them come with a hand strap on the back, the inside, so you can use that to kind of help you hold your Kindle as well, since it's a little bit less ergonomic than the Kobo. And a lot of them also sleep and wake when you open the cover. So this is another option. This one is so cute. And there are just a lot more options for Kindle cases out there. Now let's talk about Kobo Libra Color accessories, because I do think the stylus unlocks a ton of value when it comes to the Kobo Libra Color, because then it allows you to do those handwritten digital annotations, which is so cool. But I will say beyond that, I feel like having the stylus makes the case situation a little bit more complicated with the Kobo as well. I have a couple different Kobo cases to show you guys really quickly, but I would say my favorite Kobo case and the one that I would recommend is one actually sold by Kobo. This is the Kobo Libra Color stylus case from Kobo, and this is going to run you about $40. It comes in blue, beige, and black, but this is the only case that I've been able to find that has a spot specifically for the stylus, which also makes it my favorite case and the one I recommend. But it's kind of boring, you know, like compared to my Kindle case, this is pretty bland. I do love this case though. It comes around and it's magnetic on the back, so it connects there. There's no hand strap or anything, but I find you don't need it because of the page turn buttons. So with this case, you just snap your Kobo in, and then you also have this spot over here for the stylus. And it's just really the best option out there in terms of a case with a spot for the stylus. If you want to throw this in your bag, you know the stylus isn't going anywhere. I also got this clear case for my Kobo on Amazon actually. Kobo sells one, but it's pretty expensive, and I just thought I would try like one of the $10 ones from Amazon. I will say that this fits, but it's not super secure. It definitely is a little bit loose like on the sides and stuff, but I find it's not a huge deal because I usually just like having some kind of case on it when I'm just reading at home, and I don't usually have this case on it when I'm traveling or taking my Kobo out and about. With this one, I added this little like hand strap stick-on thing from Amazon on the back. I'll link this down below too. I really love this, and I put it on the side with the buttons so I can hold it like this or like this. This works great and it's affordable, but like I said, it's not the most secure. I did order one of these like fun folio cases for my Kobo, but I'm gonna be honest, I almost never use this because it has a black bumper around my white Kobo, and I just don't like the way that that looks. I think if I had a black Kobo, I wouldn't care at all because I don't mind with my Kindle. I just find I really don't like this contrast, so I wish that these cases came with like a white bumper just to match and look a little bit more seamless. And I'm gonna be honest, I do find that I don't really use this case much because there's nowhere for me to put the stylus, which is tricky. When you have the stylus, it attaches to this side. It very loosely attaches through this rubber bumper, and I can pull this around, but then it won't close. So while you're reading, you can kind of have it on there, or you could put it over here, but it's just not a long-term solution. This is really expensive and I don't want to lose it. So I just find I don't use this very much. One thing that I actually saw recommended was to get something like this, like a pen loop, and to put this with your cute Kobo case, and you could just feed the pen loop through the little opening for the charger. So you could just put that there and then stick your Kobo in the case. But I find this to be really awkward because then the case doesn't come around the Kobo all the way and it just doesn't feel as secure. So you definitely could do this and stick your pin through here. I just don't really like this option either, to be honest. So I will say that's one workaround, but I don't think it's a great workaround. Usually those cuter folio style cases are also going to run you about $40, whether that's Kindle or Kobo. So in general, I would say cases retail for around $40, but you can find more affordable ones on Amazon for around $10 or $15. So here's where I land after using both a Kindle Colorsoft and a Kobo Libra Color. Honestly, I use both for different things. I do think Kindle Unlimited is an incredible service, so I often do pick up my Kindle when going to reach for a KU book. But when it comes to reading ebooks from my library or from NetGalley, I am usually going to my Kobo. And then when it comes to purchasing a new ebook, I often am also reaching for my Kobo. I just enjoy the reading experience a smidge more on the Kobo. The Kindle ecosystem is robust, including the app for your iPhone and your iPad, and you really can't go wrong with any of the Kindle devices. The Kobo ecosystem, while not quite as robust, just feels a little bit more reader first, and picking up my Kobo genuinely feels fun. I don't think there's a wrong choice here. It's just about what matters most to you. Okay, I could probably sit here and talk for hours about all the little differences between the two, but I think those are most of my high-level thoughts. If you're comparing these devices for thinking ahead for holiday shopping, or if you were just curious, I hope this video was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments down below, have you tried an e-reader with colored ink? Have you tried the Kindle, the Kobo? Which one do you use and which one do you prefer? prefer. And if you're looking for more Kindle and Kobo content, I have an entire playlist full of all of my e-reader videos, so I'll link that down below as well in case you want to check it out. If you made it all the way to this part of the video, go ahead and comment down below with the notebook emoji so I can know who made it to the end. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up down below. YouTube has really been prioritizing likes lately, so I appreciate all the likes. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you super soon in another one. Bye!